At 80 years old, Henry Winkler, the man who once defined cool as the Fonz on Happy Days, has finally opened up about the truth behind his long and painful journey. For decades, fans saw him as the confident, leather-jacketed icon who lit up television screens with his charm and charisma. But behind that easy smile and the thunderous applause was a man hiding unimaginable heartbreak. Henry's story isn't just one of fame. It's one of quiet suffering, resilience, and redemption. Though he became a beloved household name, the path he took was filled with rejection, ridicule, and battles no one could see. The man who inspired millions to stay cool was often fighting tears when the camera stopped rolling, from a troubled childhood marked by cruel words and impossible expectations to years of professional struggles after Happy Days. Henry's life has been anything but simple. Hollywood crowned him a star, but it also left him stranded when the spotlight moved on. For years, the world forgot the man behind the character, until Henry rebuilt himself from the ashes, proving that kindness and humility can outlast even the harshest storms. Now, as he reflects on 8 decades of life, Henry Winkler finally reveals what he endured and what it truly cost him to make millions smile. His confession is heartbreaking, his strength inspiring, and his story a reminder that even the brightest lights can cast the deepest shadows. Because behind the laughter and the legend lies a long before Henry Winkler became the Fonz, the symbol of effortless confidence and coolness. His life looked nothing like the dream we'd later see on TV. He was born in New York City in 1945. The son of German Jewish immigrants who fled the Nazis just before World War II. His parents, deeply scarred by the trauma of their past, carried their pain into their new lives and, unfortunately, onto their young son. At home, Henry lived under constant pressure. His father, a strict businessman, demanded academic excellence that Henry could never deliver. No one knew that he was living with undiagnosed dyslexia, a condition that made reading and learning excruciating. To his father, it looked like laziness. He gave Henry a cruel nickname, Dummkopf, German for dumb head. Those words would echo in Henry's mind for decades, long after the shouting stopped. By the time he reached high school, Henry's self-esteem was shattered. He often sat in the back of the class pretending to read, hiding the fear that he'd be called on to answer something he couldn't even see clearly on the page. But when he discovered the school's drama club, everything changed. On stage, no one judged him for how he read. They applauded him for how he felt. Acting became his escape, his language, and eventually his salvation. Still, the road to success was brutal. After studying drama at Emerson College and Yale School of Drama, Henry arrived in Hollywood with only a few $100s in his pocket. Casting directors told him he wasn't handsome enough, not tall enough, not right for leading roles. Then, almost out of nowhere, came the role that would change his life forever: Arthur Fonzarelli on Happy Days. The audition was short and simple. He slipped on a leather jacket, said a few lines, and suddenly the room went quiet. The producers saw something special, a charisma they couldn't ignore. Within months, Happy Days exploded onto television screens, and the Fonz became a worldwide phenomenon. But with fame came a new kind of pressure. Overnight, Henry went from a struggling actor to a cultural icon. Everywhere he went, people shouted, "Aye!" and asked for photos. Children idolized him, adults admired him, and the network built entire seasons around his character. Yet inside, Henry felt trapped. He worried that the role defining his success would also define his limits. He once admitted that even at the height of his fame, he battled self-doubt every single day. "Everyone thought I was the coolest guy in America," he recalled, "but I didn't feel cool. I felt like I was pretending to be someone who wasn't me." Behind the scenes, Henry's dyslexia continued to haunt him. He struggled to memorize scripts, often hiding his difficulties from castmates. Instead of asking for help, he stayed up late, reciting lines until he could perform them by memory. He was terrified that people would discover the truth, that their idol could barely read the words that made him famous. And yet, despite his insecurities, Henry Winkler poured everything he had into Happy Days. The laughter, the energy, the effortless swagger. It was all a mask covering the pain of a lifetime. When Happy Days finally ended in 1984, Henry faced the fear he'd always dreaded. Would anyone ever see him as anything other than the Fonz? Hollywood seemed to turn its back almost overnight. The roles stopped coming, the calls stopped ringing, and the man who had once ruled prime time found himself sitting alone, wondering if his career had ended. Before it even began, it was the beginning of a long and heartbreaking chapter, a fall from stardom that would nearly break him before leading to the greatest transformation of his life. After Happy Days ended, Henry Winkler faced what many actors fear most: invisibility. For years, Hollywood had seen him as the Fonz, the leather-jacketed symbol of cool and little else. Offers for new roles were scarce, and those that came often wanted him to replicate Arthur Fonzarelli, a character he had spent nearly a decade perfecting. The typecasting was suffocating, and yet there was a deeper struggle that few knew about. Off-camera, Henry was still grappling with dyslexia. Even as an adult, reading scripts remained a monumental challenge. Every new role required painstaking effort, hours spent memorizing lines, nights filled with frustration, and a constant fear of failure. "People think I just got up there and spoke," he later revealed. "But every line was a mountain I had to climb." The very condition that had once made school unbearable now threatened to hold back the career he had fought so hard to build. During this period, Henry also confronted profound personal losses. He had endured a difficult childhood under the shadow of his father's harsh words and strict expectations, and those early scars never fully healed. The spotlight could hide many things, but it couldn't erase the feeling of inadequacy he carried inside. Some nights, even after decades of fame, he would sit alone in his home, wondering if he had truly earned the love and respect he saw from fans around the world. Yet, in the face of these struggles, Henry refused to give up. He immersed himself in projects that allowed him to explore beyond the Fonz persona, moving toward producing, directing, and even writing. He poured his heart into behind-the-scenes work, mentoring young actors and helping create stories that mattered. It was through these quieter endeavors that he began to redefine his place in Hollywood. One of the most transformative aspects of this period was his commitment to children's literature. Inspired by his own challenges with reading, Henry co-created the Hank Zipzer book series, centering on a boy with dyslexia. The series was more than entertainment. It was a lifeline for children who felt isolated or misunderstood. Henry's own struggles became a source of hope for countless young readers, proving that even the things that challenge us can become tools for empathy and change. His work behind the camera and on the page did not go unnoticed. But it wasn't until later in life that Hollywood began to truly embrace him again. Gradually, he returned to acting in diverse roles, from award-winning performances on shows like Barry to guest appearances that reminded the world of his enduring talent. Yet even as accolades returned, Henry never forgot the pain of being misunderstood or overlooked. He often reflects on those years as a period of quiet heartbreak, a time when the world applauded the persona, but the man behind it felt invisible. Through it all, Henry developed a profound sense of resilience. He came to understand that success is not always measured by fame or recognition, but by perseverance, courage, and the ability to keep moving forward despite setbacks. His journey became a testament to patience and determination, a story of a man who had conquered adversity not by erasing it, but by turning it into something meaningful. And yet, despite all his achievements, the sadness lingered. Even today, at 80, Henry Winkler acknowledges the loneliness and self-doubt that fame could never fully erase. What the public saw, the charm, the wit, the smiles, was only part of the story. Behind it was a man who had faced lifelong struggles, endured heartbreaks that fame could not shield him from, and yet continued to inspire generations. As Henry Winkler entered his later years, he began to reflect more openly on the battles that had shaped him, not just as an actor, but as a human being. Fame had come early, bringing adoration and opportunity, but it had also left scars that only time could begin to heal. The world remembered him as the Fonz, the ultimate symbol of cool, but for Henry, the persona was both a blessing and a burden. Even after decades in Hollywood, Henry still struggled with the shadow of dyslexia. Though he had found ways to work around it, reading scripts and preparing for roles required extraordinary effort. Every character, no matter how small, demanded intense focus and dedication. He often stayed up late into the night, reciting lines over and over, determined to make every performance seamless. What fans saw as natural charm was, in reality, the result of relentless perseverance and a refusal to let his challenges define him. Alongside these personal struggles, Henry also faced moments of profound grief. The entertainment industry had changed, and many of his peers from Happy Days were either retired or gone. Friends and colleagues he had worked closely with for years had passed, leaving a sense of emptiness that no applause could fill. Even as he embraced new opportunities in television and film, there were nights when he confronted the loneliness that often accompanies aging, fame, and the passage of time. Yet these trials only deepened his compassion. Henry became an advocate for children and adults with learning disabilities, speaking candidly about his own experiences with dyslexia. He wanted others to know that struggling to read or learn didn't make them less intelligent or less capable. The Hank Zipser series, co-created by Winkler, became a beacon for children who felt invisible, proving that personal hardship could be transformed into empathy and inspiration. Through this work, Henry found a purpose that transcended Hollywood and fame. Professionally, his career began to experience a renaissance. In the 2010s, he received widespread critical acclaim for roles in shows like Barry, where audiences saw a different side of him, nuanced, vulnerable, and deeply human. These performances reminded the world that beyond the leather jacket and the eye, Henry Winkler was a masterful actor capable of conveying profound emotion, humor, and wisdom. Yet even amidst these accomplishments, Henry never forgot the pain of rejection and misunderstanding. The heartbreak of early childhood, the challenges of learning, and the fear of being overlooked persisted in his reflections. What made his story so remarkable wasn't just his talent, but the courage to face those wounds openly, to turn them into teaching moments, and to continue creating joy in a world that had not always been kind. At 80, Henry Winkler looks back and finally speaks the truths he carried silently for decades. The world may have only seen his charisma and humor, but he endured heartbreak, loneliness, and the persistent struggle to prove himself, not to anyone else, but to himself. That honesty, that resilience, is the true heart of his story. In revealing this, Henry sends a message far beyond Hollywood, that fame and talent do not erase pain, but courage and perseverance can transform it. His life is a testament to overcoming invisible battles, showing that the most enduring victories are often internal, fought in silence, and yet quietly felt by all who witness them. Now, at 80, Henry Winkler reflects on a lifetime that few could have imagined from the outside. The man who made millions laugh as the Fonz is the same man who once felt invisible, misunderstood, and burdened by challenges he could not control. Fame may have given him a legendary persona, but it could not erase the pain of a childhood marked by harsh words, or the struggle of navigating the world with dyslexia. Yet, in all of that struggle, Henry found his purpose. He learned that success is not just the applause of millions or the accolades from Hollywood. It's the lives you touch along the way. Through his advocacy, his books, and his mentorship of young performers, Henry turned personal hardship into something profoundly meaningful. The same man who once feared failure became a source of hope for countless others, teaching children and adults alike that difficulties are not a verdict on your worth. Even as he grew older, Henry refused to let his pain define him. Instead, he embraced each new opportunity to act, teach, and inspire. Roles in shows like Barry and guest appearances in family films allowed audiences to see the depth, warmth, and humanity behind the public persona. And through it all, his charm remained intact. But now it was paired with wisdom and humility, shaped by a lifetime of triumphs and heartbreaks alike. Henry's story is a reminder that life is rarely as simple as it seems. Behind the leather jacket, the signature "Aye" And the charm that captured the world was a man who fought battles invisible to the public eye. He endured rejection, overcame a lifelong learning disability, and carried the weight of personal grief. Yet he never stopped moving forward. In fact, it was those very struggles that fueled his greatest successes, allowing him to connect with audiences in ways no one else could. In interviews today, Henry speaks openly about the heartbreak he's endured, but also about gratitude. "I've had pain," he admits, "but I've also had love, laughter, and purpose. That's what matters in the end." His honesty is as compelling as his performances, proving that true strength lies not in hiding your wounds, but in embracing them and using them to inspire others. As the world celebrates his 80th year, it's clear that Henry Winkler's legacy is far more than television fame. It is a story of resilience, courage, and the power of perseverance. It is a life lived with honesty, humor, and heart, a testament to the fact that even in the darkest moments, hope and joy are possible. Henry Winkler may have become a cultural icon, but beyond the applause and the accolades, he is a man who endured, who learned, and who triumphed in ways that no awards could ever measure. And in revealing his journey at 80, he leaves the world not just with laughter, but with a profound lesson that the greatest victories are often unseen, fought quietly, and felt deeply by all who witnessed the courage to rise again. Because behind every smile, every "I" and every joyful performance, Henry Winkler carried a story of heartbreak, and ultimately a story of triumph that will continue to inspire generations to come.